Dave?
I believe I am.
All right.
I believe.
Hello, everybody. A little bit late. We apologize. We are gathered here today to continue our search for objective truth. I'm, for one, excited to find out, are we in a cult? Or have we left one without knowing it? Hello, everybody. A little bit late. We apologize. We are gathered here today to continue our search for objective truth. Specific methods. I'm, for one, excited to find out, are we in a cold state or mind control? The BITE model, without knowing it, developed by Stephen Hassan. Hello, everybody. It's called a little bit late. BITE is an acronym for behavior to objective truth with behavior. Specific methods. I'm, for one, excited to find out, are we in a cold to be responsible? Mind control. The BITE model, without knowing it, developed by Stephen Hassan. Hello, everybody. Patrick. A little bit late. He's a vegan. It's an acronym for behavior to objective truth. Continue to provide specific methods. For one, excited to find out, are we in a cold? Have we responsible? The BITE model, without knowing it. And hello, everybody. Patrick. A little bit late. He's a vegan. It's an acronym for behavior. I have technical difficulties. Why wouldn't I? So last time I bullied Patrick into a concession on financial exploitation, manipulation, dependence. We are going to revisit it before we start. Patrick, please.
So for me, it wasn't too clear exactly what the argument was or what financial exploitation meant when you did the rebuttal. So I sort of let it slide, but yeah, I'd like you to provide what you mean by financial exploitation and why meat eating is an example.
Right. I was more going into financial manipulation, actually, as I think. But financial exploitation also includes in it financial fraud, according to EPA. They usually talk about exploitation of adults. But it seems to apply to me because if the industry, the meat industry, dairy industry, lie to people who pay them money in order for them to buy more products, then I think it's both financial manipulation and financial fraud. Are you still unconvinced? I will let you decide this time. This is your thing.
I don't know. What does vegan gays think?
I don't know. I don't really understand. It seems like I'm hearing it like a stretch, but I don't know. It's hard because when we're all vegans here and we have a bias that's very clear. And I don't want to just I'm trying to be quite critical about it. So I think maybe I'm being overcritical and I'm a bit too scared to say, oh, yeah, no, that is financial manipulation. So maybe that's just me. Yeah.
Okay. So Patrick,
there's certain parts of, the carnivore people such as Sean Baker, he for sure, he takes, money from people and then under the false pretext of running a carnivore study, and then
that's fringe though, Patrick. That's fringe.
Well, I mean, you could make the with the whole Pignorant that's come out, and it kind of highlighted what we already knew of the industry, that things like the RSPCA assured, Red Tractor approved, they are self-governing. They are made for farmers, by farmers, essentially by the industry. And they give a guise of what their operation looks like to people who wouldn't otherwise probably purchase that if they knew what happened. So there is some financial manipulation there. They're trying to make people comfortable with a purchase that they otherwise probably wouldn't make. That's the angle I'm seeing.
Offline, me and Vegan, we talked about a few examples. For example, with Oatly and how I believe they were using the residue from the oats. They were giving it to some animals, right? And we were thinking whether this is an example of financial manipulation, because many vegans, they wouldn't buy Oatly if they didn't know, if they did know what was going on with the residue from the oats. And then once this came out.
I wouldn't say Oatly or Alpro, all of those groups, they are part of veganism, part of the vegan group, because they're clearly, if they're doing this for environmental reasons at best and monetary reasons at worst, and they're not part of a group. They are exploiting a group, and we are happily obliging sometimes. But
yeah, I don't know of any truly there are obviously exist in existence, but I don't know of a vegan company that represents veganism. I don't know if a company can a company represent a potential cult or a group.
So what, one last time, give me your argument for why you think meat eating is an example of financial manipulation, because you're talking about the just most meat eaters in general, because it's going to be always outliers of people who are not getting financially manipulated.
Sure, I can try. I'm trying to think how I can reward it, make it clearer. I think unlike Oatly and Alpro, the meat farms, dairy farms, they are part of the meat eating world, and they do manipulate truth in order to continue extracting money, to continue existing, basically. And their existence is for money.
So what you're saying is that people, if they knew what was going on, they wouldn't buy the product. So then they're putting
money. Well, it doesn't
money
even matter if people would change their minds. Like when I listen to people talk about ex-Mormons talking about Mormonism, they say, well, if we'll get to it later, if the higher levels, the General Council, were truthful with their constituents, what tithing goes for, the history of the church, and so forth, and people would still want to be in there would not be a problem. So it doesn't really matter if the constituents would change their mind on something. It's the fact that things are hidden from meat eaters, and it's done with financial thought behind it, financial motivation. But if you don't accept
it seems like it's going into the area of information manipulation. But if there's, you mean that they're manipulating information with the incentive to make money, basically?
Yeah.
I'm in agreement.
With whom?
Oh, you.
Oh.
I am. I'm gonna go for the jugular with the eating side here. There is that exploitation happening with an incentive to keep people comfortable in purchasing these products. So it falls under the behavior and the information.
I mean, some of those things are gonna overlap.
Yeah.
So I guess we can. What do people say in the chat?
Chat, give us a shout. What do you think?
My chat's being dead. I don't know what people. Okay, come on, people. What are you thinking?
Yes, please.
Don't be so silent.
Well, but what are we expecting from our individual cults?
True.
All I see is just emojis for the moment.
Well, would you like to revisit it at the end and think about it a little?
No, Well, if this is basically what you mean by financial manipulation, just manipulating information with the gain to make money, then I guess I agree with that.
I wouldn't even say just information. Like, let me think about it. I think it's straight up lying. And I would call that financial fraud. But like, okay, the big question is, would we consider it as strong of a point as to being a financial fraud? Maybe the motivations of culture and shit like that are stronger. This is becoming very deep. I appreciate it. But we're not gonna finish the series. Like,
yeah, we'll never finish it. We'll get stuck on this one forever.
Yeah. And the chat is useless. Come on, guys, help us out.
Yeah, useless.
I'm sorry, I appreciate you.
No, Kerry says the whole reason Big Animal Ag exists is financial manipulation, fraud, and lies. I mean, I think there are, as Postmortem said, like cultural ties. It's just something that people have been doing, and then they're attempting to make it more profitable and comfortable for the consumer. Not out of, I wouldn't say care for the consumer, just a comfortable consumer consumes more. So, but yeah, it's, you know, financial is a massive part of it, and they do have to lie in order to make it comfortable, because it's not. A point's being made about slaughterhouse workers dealing with financial blackmail and stuff, but I guess we would consider that fringe.
Yeah, fringe.
Yeah, so we can't really count that, but that is a good point.
Yeah. Corvid Moon, I can see you, but I'm sure. Okay, guys, what are we doing? Patrick?
I think I'll put applies, because, yeah, the industry's there to make
not
money.
Partially applies.
There's always going to be fringe cases, I guess, of people just eating, I don't know, leftovers or stuff such as this and not giving money, but
you should disregard all that.
So then I'll put fully applies. Yeah.
I continue bullying you though, Patrick. I will try to stop. Guys, before we continue, could you please, if it's possible for you, open all 3 streams, mute the other 2, like, subscribe, hit something there. Appreciate it greatly. Thank you. So we continue into holy shit, something incredibly heavy. Force individual to rape or be raped.
Now, on the vegan side, I think it goes without saying it doesn't. I'd be more interested in the meat eater side for this one.
I think in this case, because we have it twice, because later we have rape, I think in this case, they mean the constituents, the members, are they forced to rape or be raped?
No. Like, there'd be nothing in the philosophy. In fact, it would be anti that, if anything.
Right. Patrick is shaking his head as well. For both
groups, yeah.
For both groups.
Nothing for the members.
So, guys, I promise this is going to be incredibly heavy. We're going back to the Kingston clan, who don't get married on their own volition. Actually, the people on top, the 3 brothers, Kingston brothers on top, are the ones who decide who marries whom. And when we enter such a situation where people are forced to get married, they are, of course, forced to other stuff as well, consummate that marriage. And that results, more often than not, in marital rape, where both are either forced to rape or be raped.
Jesus Christ.
Yep. Encourage and engage in corporal punishment.
No, there wouldn't be any of that in veganism. I've never witnessed that. I would.
So it's not mandated by veganism to hit your kids?
No.
Oh,
In fact, you probably, if you were doing that, I think people would, even if it were like, you know, the human animal, and people have contentions with like including the human animal sometimes, but they would probably see that as a not vegan thing and would, fight amongst themselves over that. It doesn't really coincide with the philosophy.
Patrick?
For the members of the group know it as well.
All right. So IBLP is a new cult for us. It's the Institute in Basic Life Principles. If you remember 17 and Counting, that's the Duggar family who has an exuberant amount of kids. They belong to this specific cult. And this cult has this book as a guide to train up a child, which recommends to start spanking kids with various objects as young as 6 months old. And despite this being frowned upon outside, cult to this day continues not mandate, but mandate.
Train up a child. Oh, God.
It's a
Awful.
diet. So I'm trying to not kill myself. Instill dependency and obedience. Hey.
Yeah, like obedience to whom would be the question, and dependency on whom would be the question. Like there is no like leader in veganism to be obedient to or dependent on. So unless I'm interpreting this the wrong way, I'm not seeing except an obedience to the values and actually following the actions that are considered vegan. But vegans fight amongst themselves over what's vegan in the first place.
Yeah,
So-
I would say it's a stretch of the word to say call what we do obedience.
Yeah. So I would say no, it doesn't apply.
Patrick?
I guess most meat eaters they eat animal products 3 times a day. For example, I did when I was a meat eater, and if I didn't, maybe I would have felt that something is missing. So in terms of, I guess it's a semantics thing, but perhaps there's a dependency on having animal products, and if you don't, you feel something is missing. I don't know if it can be interpreted this way.
No, feels as much of a stretch as obedience, frankly. I feel like there's a different definition of the word applied there. What do you think?
I'm thinking it's dependency and obedience to an individual or to a leader or to something.
Or to the group
not
itself, not
to the group,
food.
not to like a flesh piece to eat or something like that.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Then no,
Does not apply.
nothing there.
Oh, that's a shame. Instill dependency and obedience. So in case of our favorite cult, Scientology, there is such a thing as a disconnection policy. So the dependence and obedience comes through people not wanting to leave the cult, because if they do, they might lose their family, their friends, their work, their entire surroundings. Because when you leave the cult, and if you are vocal in any way about the cult, you are declared as a suppressive person, as SP. And once you are an SP, people must disconnect from. So I think there are a lot of people who are under the radar and kind of suffer through it, and they can't leave the cult because everybody.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of scrutiny in veganism, like over someone becoming an ex-vegan. But I've never been told I can't be friends with somebody.
Yeah.
If they stop.
In fact, I'm surrounded by ex.
Yeah,
So-
I know a lot of ex-vegans, and I like they know my opinions.
Yeah.
Like, but you know, nobody's telling me you have to dissociate, otherwise you're not a vegan or something like that. And even if they do, it's one person who has the same level of authority as I do in the group. So
I would tell that person, fuck you, I'll date with whom I want. Right. I'm glad we're making this a little bit light-hearted, because the next one is kidnapping.
Yay. Yeah, I can't say there's a man with the van. You know, in veganism, there's no mandate for that. Yeah. In fact, I'd be interested in the meat eater side, actually, when it comes to kidnapping of different species of animal.
Didn't think about that. Patrick?
That's what I was thinking about. It depends again on the definition of kidnapping. If you're talking with members of the same species or other species.
I think in this case it's just generic. Does that occur?
So hunting, for example, when you're taking an animal from its home, that could be a form of kidnapping potentially.
Yeah, just dairy industry. Every
industry, the pig industry. Takes babies from their mums at like 3 to 4 weeks old. Yeah.
Does kidnapping usually involve a ransom or not? Is that part of the definition of kidnapping?
As long as the child is taken from the parent.
Then yeah.
I think it fully applies. Fully applies in the millions, I would say. Like the billions, rather. It's the
yeah, but
trillions.
We don't want to bully Patrick.
Yeah, no. There's a right answer, Patrick.
just out of interest, post-mortem, would you have said yes if vegan gays didn't mention different species, or what was your gut feeling before?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I haven't thought about it, frankly. I was just going by, I was just thinking about my own examples of faults. I left the hard work for you. Right. I don't know. I would say, I don't know. It depends. I think this is just kidnapping simpliciter. So the curs or meat eating. So I would say, guys, yeah. That's not my final answer, but that's the
answer. And does kidnapping just apply to kids, or does it apply to anyone?
I think kidnapping applies to adults as well. I don't know. It's not usually applied to other species. But, I mean, if I, like, colloquially, if I said somebody kidnapped my dog, everybody would understand what I mean. I don't know if, like, meat eaters wouldn't agree with us.
No, but I think that would be, like, I mean, this would require some psychoanalysis, but like, they are complicit in babies being taken away from their mums, so they're not going to want to call it kidnapping. But yeah, like someone pointed out as well, it's like rampant, you know, even with like non food animals, like, you know, dogs and cats get kidnapped from their mothers so that people can sell them. I think, yeah, because it even applies to adults saying like kidnapped.
Yeah.
Like I think, as you say, colloquially, people would know what you meant if you said someone kidnapped my dog. So they know they can understand the interpretation and the implication. They just would be uncomfortable with it. That's why they'd probably refuse it. I don't think they would if it didn't apply to them.
So fully applies then.
Fully.
For the meat eaters, yeah.
So this example is again from Orthodox Judaism. It's a fringe example, but because I don't know any cult that does kidnapping as a matter of parents. So the child on the left was married a 19-year-old man when she was 13. Once they were married, she was forced to marriage. And her mother then woke up from this and took both of her kids away from the cult. But the cult leader and a few of the cult members made an elaborate plan, stole them back to reunite the couple, and basically to return the kids into the cult. They were then found, brought back to the mother, but holy shit.
I don't like this section of the bite model.
We're moving on to information. Information is going to be terrible for meat eating, but it's going to be a little less horrible.
Heavy, yeah.
Beating vegan gays.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is quite an interesting time where it came out that in the Pignorant documentary that these pigs were being beaten to death as a way of like dealing with the sick and the dying. So I'm interested to see what Patrick says. But as for veganism, it's pretty anti that, I would say. There's nothing mandated to for that.
We're
So
a bunch of
doesn't
soy
apply.
boys, so you know.
Just soy boys couldn't even do it, even if we tried.
Don't even have the power. Patrick.
But for meat eating, it's not a very good. And not it fully applies. Yeah, because regularly animals are beaten. In all the documentaries you see, they're abused.
Little Davy Miscavige is the ecclesiastical leader of Scientology. A really tiny man. He's your size, El, but in a man. So
I am tiny.
only slightly higher than me. And it is reported by people who left the cult that he on his constituents. But it's not only him specifically. It happens in the Sea Org altogether. And it can be explained by one of the policies of L. Ron Hubbard, although twisted around, as usually happens, twist around the the policies. So in this case, it says, in an upstart group, at the first pinprick, Joe would probably have a black eye. The guy wrote terribly and in his own language, but what this means basically that when you have a highly performing office, Sea Org, a person who is lacking about, okay, to give him a black eye. Maybe it was a metaphor, but maybe it was not, but it's used to beat people.
Jesus.
Torture.
Again, with this one, I'd be very interested to hear the meat eating side. But yeah, I mean, the only torture that vegans are mandated to endure is plant sentience comments and crop death slow comments. They are quite torturous. But that is about it. I would say it doesn't apply.
Patrick?
How would you define torture post-mortem?
Yeah, that's the thing. It really does depend on definition. I think most people would say that the definition is to apply bodily harm to extract information. That's the military definition, I guess. I would say any action that is physically or mentally harmful that the person didn't agree to.
Okay, because I was thinking more of the military definition when people are tortured to get information out of them, hit and stuff. So the second definition I would say fully applies.
But what do you think? Which definition would a cult use?
I would think it's the first definition, to extract information. For example, if someone's left the cult or extra information which someone doesn't want to share about things going inside the cult.
I would actually, I'm gonna go against vegan gays, and I would say in this case it does not apply because, because the first definition sounds like what is mostly used, and I also use colloquially that animals are tortured in the animal agriculture, but I think it's torture is also like a personal thing, like, and we just don't know. Like, we can't ask animals torture. I don't know.
Do you have to ask somebody to know that they are being tortured when it's something that's so like painful?
Blatant. Yeah.
So it's like it's going to be torture to be like dehydrating to death on like a cage floor, or it's going to be torture to be like born into a body where you're selectively bred to like overproduce something and then have your babies taken from you, and they're entailed in the process, really. Like even if you like steel man and have like the best kind of conditions for these animals, they're still selectively bred, they still have their babies taken from them, they're still going to be like killed and exploited. So it's still like a torturous kind of existence, like even without asking, I would make that assumption.
Yeah, again, I use it. I have this thing that I saw one in my mind every time I say torture. Exactly what I mean. It's rancher burning bulls with incredibly terrible. Just looked horrendous. But I don't like. I think it's a semantic thing here. How torture actually defined. If it's defined for what it's done for, then it doesn't apply, because, like, militarily, it's defined through getting you. I don't know. I'm on the fence. I'm screaming yes applies absolutely, but I'm also trying to be charitable, fair.
I am not, because I'm in a cult.
There you go. So Patrick, I
Where would
apologize. It's again up to you, I think.
where would what you were saying is there another point which would come under, leaving animals dehydrated, or when a worker feels they're not behaving properly, hitting them, which I've seen happen in documentaries? Would there be another point for that somewhere?
Oh, you mean in the bite model?
Yeah. For behavior control.
I really think it just fully applies. Like, I don't think in a cult like setting it's going to be like, oh, just for information. Like it would be torture for the sake of torture, or breaking them down, or because they are beneath the leader.
Yeah.
And we see animals as beneath us.
So I'm in a difficult position here, because I think post-mortem is kind of intent on it being something to do with extracting information, and well, I understand the other side as well.
By the way, my example is not going to be by the first definition; it's going to be by the second. So I don't know. I'm incredibly. I don't know.
Oh, so your example is by the second.
Yeah. Maybe I'll give the example and then we'll revisit. How about that, Patrick?
Okay. Yeah.
So listen, guys. Just by the fact that I'm a soy boy, I don't like the extremely violent cults. I like the quirky, goofy cults. But this, I think, applies. And I think people are going to argue with me about it. So silent birth in Scientology is not what it sounds like. So L. Ron Hubbard said that from the moment that kids are born, everything that is said to them is imprinted on them. He called it an engram. So there are like designated mini hospitals for Scientologists to go give birth at. Or they can go into a regular hospital and just demand from doctors to say nothing during birth. But that's not even the creepy part. The creepy part is that Scientologists, for the most part, don't really believe in painkillers and such, and like in taking drugs at all. So it sounds to me like a fucking torture to be convinced by your group to give birth and not get epidural or any other kind of painkiller if you want them. That sounds torture to me.
Yeah.
And then based on that example, I guess I would say fully applies.
Yeah, but I've prefaced this because I didn't take. There are cults out there that fully torture their members and others. Just says torture. It doesn't say of the members. So I don't know.
No, I'll go for fully applies because, yeah.
And may the chiefs fall.
It comes to my head, I saw an image the other day of a cow just lying on the ground, still getting milk extracted, and that looks like torture to me.
That looks like fun, but not of the members, so it's fine. Right. I was cynical there in case.
Yeah, this isn't mandated in veganism. I'm interested in the wording difference being what that will affect with the meat eating side. So I would say it doesn't apply.
Patrick?
So then this one, I'm guessing we're going for outside the group as well, right?
Yeah.
For this time. So then even it's all interconnected, even people that don't eat, or drink secretions, it's all interconnected. So pretty much everyone is involved with this, with what they're supporting,
So the next example is fucked up twofold. Danny Masterson is a known Hollywood actor. He used to be in That 70s Show, where he recruited basically most of the cast into Scientology. He himself is a second generation, and he, a few months ago, was convicted of 2 counts of violent rape, when we know that he raped at least 20 other women, just those 2. He could be convicted. Why is it relevant? Like, every group has a rapist or 2. But in this case, the cult itself, the Office of Special Affairs, which is a spy wing of Scientology, they covered his rapes up for many, many years through manipulating his victims, through silencing his victims, through expelling his victims from the cult if needed, and through trying to fix him and his rapey tendencies within the cult itself. Now, current affairs, something that is going on right now, one of the victims was raped in a restaurant called La Poubelle, which is found in Hollywood. Right now, people, online people, are trying to shut that place down through basically standing outside and not letting anybody come in without knowing that place supports rapists. Those people do it while going next door to support local businesses and buying ice cream. So, there. That's all I wanted.
Joy.
Okay, separation of families.
Yeah, this is another one where I'd be interested in the meat eating side. It's not mandated by veganism to separate families. I guess there can be disparity and tension between families because it's something that's causes rifts in family dynamics when one wants to go vegan, but it doesn't call for the separation of families.
And in any case, it doesn't come from the group. It comes from outside the group.
Yeah.
Patrick?
So nothing within the group, but outside the group, there is clear separation going on between mothers and their children, fathers and
So what would you say? Fully applies, partially applies?
from outside the species fully applies.
Well, I wouldn't call it incredibly outside. It's done for the group.
For the group of It's
Isn't
not
it though?
well, I mean,
doesn't it become the same point as a kidnapping case?
I think kidnapping is more the act of doing it, of taking someone, and then I don't know.
I feel like with the kidnapping one, the term could be a bit like difficult for people to accept, but the families are like, they are separated, and that's like at the moment entailed in the process.
Okay. Did you write this down, Patrick?
Yeah, I put fully applies.
Well done.
Not going good for meat eaters. The last 5 have been all fully applies.
So again, the disconnection policy, just wanted to drive it home. The one side of disconnection policy that it keeps people in, and they feel they can't leave without losing the family. The other side is when they leave, and if they voice their concerns about the cult and start talking about it any kind of way, or basically if they breathe wrongly, they are declared a suppressive person, and everybody in their family, their friends, have to disconnect from them, given the option either disconnect or be declared a suppressive person itself. So there's definitely one of the strongest points that ex-Scientologists make is separation of families. Everybody sufficiently depressed yet because we got to imprisonment.
I think you're going to be interested about my view again.
Of course.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry to be boring, but it's not mandated in veganism to be imprisoned. There's no imprisonment. Like, who is mandating this? Where is it coming from? What is the prison? Not feeling this one either.
Classic cult member, keep repeating yourself.
Yeah, and hopefully people agree. If they don't, there will be imprisonment.
Patrick.
And this one, I would say, fully applies. Yeah, you have zoos, animals are kept in cages, in farms. It's a type of imprisonment.
Okay.
Completely, fully applies. Yeah, I don't think I'll have any.
Yeah, even in free range situations, there is a form of like imprisonment. So
Yeah,
there's always confinement. Yeah.
The only way to
there's
live
always-
is on a truck to slaughterhouse. The only way to live is on a truck
Yeah.
to slaughterhouse.
Yeah. There's no good way out.
Okay. So again, it's going to be Scientology heavy this week because almost everything applies. In case of Scientology, there used to be something called the Rehabilitation Project Force due to very strong leaning from ex-cult members and the amount of press that it got. Rehabilitation Project Force was shut down, but it used to be basically like imprisonment, because they would be on the base doing physical work, eating very little, couldn't talk to people. But even the stronger imprisonment camp that Scientology has and still does, called the Hole, which is basically 2 trailers in which David Miscavige used to put his best lieutenants in when they pissed him off a little bit. And they would spend their years, sometimes, in these 2 trailers, locked up, basically.
God. Just another one that's like, oh, I wonder what the meat eating section will have to say. Yeah, there's no murder mandated by the cult of veganism, the apparent cult of veganism. In fact, it would be like anti that. So I would have to say it doesn't apply at all.
Patrick?
And for this is a bit of semantics here because there's multiple definitions of murder, and I think there's one, it's to slaughter mercilessly or something like this, and I think this, I think this completely applies, and I'll go for this interpretation because this is, a lot of meat eaters, they object when vegans say murder. They say, because they assume it's something which needs to be breaking the law. But there's multiple interpretations, and I prefer the one which is to slaughter mercilessly, or as whatever way you find it.
Right.
So I would go for fully applies.
Good. Again, I don't know. I don't follow vintage cults or murderous cults, but Charles Manson cult apparently instructed his followers to kill outside the group. That's why I like the example, because it didn't kill its own members outside the group, apparently to provoke a race war. That's crazy, and I don't want to read about it. Moving on. Guys, we got to information, examining the tactics manipulative organizations to control information flow through censorship and propaganda, restricting members' access to outside perspectives. First on the list is, this one works a little differently. There are sections and subsections. The first is deception, deliberately withholding information. Vegan Gaze.
I would say, like, in many cases, veganism asks for the opposite. It asks for more information to be shown. Like in the case of like animal agriculture, like slaughterhouse footage, what's happening to animals. I'm not thinking of like an example of deliberately withholding information, except within like very small subsects fringes of like people who are vegan. So I would have to say, like, I don't know how it could apply.
Yeah, we don't shut up about it, do we?
No.
No. Patrick.
Completely agree. Vegans don't withhold any information, and it's the complete opposite for meat eaters. I don't know the statistics, but many people don't actually know what comes onto their plate.
Yeah.
And it's a shock when they see the footage. So I think that's good evidence that information is being withheld. And you made the post on Twitter the other day about memes. Everyone puts the meme of their burger, but you don't see the memes of not the meme, the GIF.
Of a slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
I made the point, if you really want to trigger vegans, slaughterhouse. Oh, sorry, you can't, because it triggers you as well. So sad. Anyways.
No, I liked your point there, because right now you cannot tell whether the burger is vegan or not. So if you can just reply, "Oh, thanks for posting a photo of a GIF of a vegan burger."
Yeah.
Why don't?
Right. So deliberately withhold information is the name of the game in case of Scientology. Someone who's right. So L. Ron, I forgot what I wanted to say about this, but L. Ron Hubbard actually wrote that the confidential levels of the bridge to total freedom, they cannot be revealed to somebody who's not ready. And by not ready means somebody who didn't go through OT2 and then was approved for OT3. He says that they get pneumonia or cancer, die. So actually it happens that the entire world has more access to OT levels than Scientology themselves, holding information.
Mm-hmm.
Deception, distort information to make it more acceptable. Okay.
I can't help but like have a little giggle because it's like like what the meat eating side are doing. I feel like vegans again, like maybe there could be some distortion. I don't know, maybe I'm seeing
There
too
is,
much
there
bias,
is.
but yeah. But I think for the most part, like I think you can make the argument that using emotive language or using like language that people don't like could distort things because then they see it in the human context. But like I think the same applies for the first section of deception, where we are really trying to actually just like get more information out there than actually is. And I would say that it's conveyed in an accurate way, because a lot of it I'm thinking of is like slaughterhouse footage, like stuff that's happening to animals, like being filmed. Like, although I've been accused multiple times of like generating CGI, yeah, or
I would
something
say,
like that.
I think you missed this one, vegan gays. I
Oh,
think it
okay.
applies even less because it says distort information to make it more acceptable. Vegans definitely don't do that. We can catastrophize things sometimes.
I guess I'm seeing it in the context of makes it more acceptable in the eyes of the cult, like because it would be more acceptable to be upset if it's so bad.
Oh, I understand.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm seeing what you mean. You're seeing it like, yeah, makes it more like palatable.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I'm seeing it.
So you would say partially applied, or?
I don't think when we're looking at the veganism as a whole that you could say that anything's like being distorted. Like, what honestly is being distorted?
The footage is real footage.
Yeah, like animals do
real.
indeed suffer. Like animals, like you can argue about like people might be like rights based or not. I'm trying to think like, people will argue all day about health claims, but we have the consensus. So I really don't know, but maybe it's my cult brain.
Maybe.
I would say it doesn't apply. It does in fringe cases, absolutely in fringe cases, but not as a whole. Okay. Yeah.
Patrick?
Now there are AI generated images, but they're more funny, I saw one the other day of a meat eater sitting next to someone eating just broccoli, and the guy eating broccoli was just smiling then, and the meat eater was sitting there crying in front of the. But that's just AI, and just in general, what people share is the truth. It's real footage, it's not fake.
Apparently it is. I don't know why they think we've got all this money for CGI that looks really realistic.
Yeah, but does the meat-eating group distort information to make it more acceptable, Patrick?
For the meat-eating group, you've got all these images of happy farms, words such as humane. The fact that people think you can kill someone and it's acceptable if it's done in a nice way, I think is pretty good evidence that information is being distorted somewhere along the lines, because they wouldn't accept it if something like that was happening to one of their own family members. So
I think most of them wouldn't accept that it happens to the animals they eat.
No.
Yeah.
If they actually knew, most people, I think they're just so detached that they don't even realize there's an animal on their plate.
Because the information has been distorted to make it more acceptable.
Yeah.
All right. Right, Mormonism this time. Helen Mar Kimball was a 14-year-old bride of the cult leader and cult initiator Joseph Smith, who was a polygamist and altogether a terrible person. The distortion comes in the way Mormons and Mormon leadership talks about these events these days. They say she was shy of her birthday. This is something that's supposed to appease us and tell us, oh, but she wasn't or she was 14, but very nearly 15, so it's fine. It was acceptable at the time, they say, to wed young people. No, it wasn't. It actually also frowned upon in the 1820s and 30s to have somebody married this young. They also say they didn't have a sexual relationship. Probably not true. There are evidence that they did. And the fourth point, it was her father's idea. No, it wasn't. Her father was in a cult, and he was told that if he gives his daughter to wed the cult leader, then they get blessings and shit. So I wouldn't call that somebody's idea. I would call that coercion. That's that. Deception.
I'd like to add something quickly. Bianca made a good point. And when I said happy farms, I was thinking it, but I didn't voice it. There's also all of these images on products of happy animals, such as I think it's some baby bell, maybe, where you've got a happy cat. Yeah.
Yeah, like the laughing cow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of this is just distorting.
And the animals who cut themselves open for our pleasure. Right. What did we say? Thematically lie to the cult members.
Yeah, again, I don't know what this is like. So there are obviously going to be people who lie to each other, but systematically. So there's got to be something about veganism systematically that is lying. And I've heard like anti-vegans say that veganism is a lie, but I haven't yet heard like anything that makes sense. Like what is honestly
specific?
Yeah. Like what is a lie? A lot of people will go to, oh well, you need the flesh of animals. Okay, I'm yet to see evidence that it's a biological requirement of the human body. Like what, the animals have feelings, is that a lie? Or that they're individuals or sentient, is that a lie? Like when I'm seeing things that we're going by, a lot of the time I'm seeing things that are like a scientific consensus. So I just don't know how. I don't know how this would apply.
Vegan gays, the biggest lies is that we're doing it for animals and not to feel superior ourselves. We change our entire life just so we could feel superior.
True. But yeah, there are certainly obviously like narcissistic personalities or ones of that kind of umbrella who will take on like virtue movements, as you could maybe call them, and do that. But again, you know, if we look at what veganism is, it's, you know, and it's animal rights. It's about like these individual animals. So people can change it to suit whatever they want, but fundamentally what veganism means and why it was set up and why we follow it, it doesn't say anywhere, oh, so you can feel like superior. Nowhere mandates that. So
Patrick, systematically lie to the cult of meat eating.
I'm not too sure what systematically means for certain, but I'm pretty sure there's a big cover-up going on, so it must be systemic, I'm guessing, because most people don't know what's happening, how their food, what is on their plate, where it comes from. I would guess these companies, they also think of ways to market products more to the consumer, so they buy more, which we talked about earlier with. So I would guess fully applies, unless one of you two push back on me.
I'm teetering between partially applies and fully applies, because like on some products, like, well, that's the thing, most products in like the UK, for example, are like RSPCA like assured or Red Tractor approved. Like they have like a label on them that tells you that this is a safe thing to consume. So my brain wants to say fully applies.
So you changed your mind before you were on partially applied to
Um,
tutoring.
well, who really have you ever seen? Have you ever seen a package that said, "Oh yeah, this animal was like gassed to death. This animal's throat was slit. This animal was boiled alive." Like I've never seen that in my life. Oh, by the way, this animal had like cancerous tumors that we cut out of them before. Like like yeah, oh by the way, like most of these animals end up with like diseases and like or like whatever percentage it is. I've never seen that. I just see like happy pictures, little labels that say this is safe to consume, and then like when you go, like nearly every time I've been to like a supermarket and then I've seen the dairy aisle, there's something hanging with like pastures and happy cows. Like it's just everywhere.
I would say it's even worse because, and I made a short video about this, labels themselves are incredibly deceptive. For instance, what is defined as beef, anything that was ever on the animal, not just muscular flesh, and what is fresh meat. Fresh meat is, it can be in storage for months. It just means that it wasn't added stuff to and wasn't manipulated. But I think the regular consumer doesn't even know what those labels mean.
No.
Like almost every, like if you go into FDA or like I went into my local like list of definitions, what those things mean, and it was like, why would the fuck would you call that fresh? I mean, it's just so misleading.
Yeah, so disgusting.
All right. Patrick, are you...
What does systematically lie mean exactly? This is what I'm still a little bit unsure of. Does it just mean that there's all of the companies are working together, or does
well, there are checkoffs and the like councils and all that shit, but also I think in this case the government even. I feel like I sound so conspiratorial when I say this, but those definitions come from the government, like the definition of fresh meat.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I would call that systemic. Yeah, I would call that the system is lying to you. Shit.
And humane methods of killing come from like the government bodies and not the government bodies, but like the farming bodies. Like the things that are advised to even do to these animals are coming from that. So yeah, it is a conspiracy, but you know, some conspiracies, you know, are no longer theories. So
unrelated to ethics, I know that Nicholas Carter, he's got a page about environmental stuff, and he says that the companies, they've sort of come together to find a new metric to make it seem that the greenhouse gas emissions that they're meeting, you know, the targets. So it's more related to the environment, this one, but it's an example of the companies coming together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think you got your answer. Right. Example is again from Scientology, from the goofy part of it. Have you ever heard the lure of Xenu?
No.
Well, anyways, I'm not gonna go into it because it's a whole space opera about intergalactic overlord called Xenu, who tried to kill half of his population by sending them to Earth and blah blah blah. So the South Park episode in Scientology was aired depicting almost completely truthfully what goes on in the confidential levels of Scientology, of the climb to stupid bridge. But the cult members are told that that information was inaccurate. Because remember, whoever would hear that information should surely get cancer, pneumonia, and die. And here, millions, if not billions of people watched that episode over and over again, and they're still alive. Nobody's dropping dead. So the cult members are told that the information was squirrel, which it's stupid. It means that it wasn't worded correctly or wasn't applied correctly, and therefore that's why it's not haven't killed the entire masses.
You're right. The more you say about Scientology, the more goofy it sounds.
Guys, we can move on to the next one, or we can stop here because it's 10 past. What do you think?
We have done an hour.
Yeah.
Should we try and tackle the rest of information in the next one and
Yeah.
just go with that?
I'm chipping away at it.
All right. So just to reiterate, I don't know. Meat eating doesn't look so good these days. Maybe later we'll mitigate it somehow. But I also wanted to say that an actual ex-cult member is going to come to this series at the end and summarize the entire thing and give her thoughts and feelings about our endeavor here. And most importantly, she will give us an entire example of her own cult, of what a cult looks like. Because right now we have certain things that apply to this and to that, but every group has a few culty characteristics, but it's the matter of accumulation that makes a cult. So comparing it to an actual real cult would give us a lot of information. Okay, final statements.
Yeah, it's not looking very good for the meat eating side, and it's hard to like look at this. You know, I want to just obviously take into account my bias, but there is a reason I did become vegan in the first place. But is that cult like thinking, oh, I've now joined the group because I do not know. I'm questioning every day. But the more you understand about cults, the more it seems like veganism just doesn't even apply. So much so that it's actually so painfully ridiculous to call it one, but we'll have to see as we go through the bite model.
Patrick?
Yeah, I definitely thought as a meat eater, looking back, I was indoctrinated. But the more we're doing this, I'm starting to think perhaps I was in a cult. Who knows?
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And